So when I think about, Apple, Nike, Lululemon, and Peloton, those are brands that people ask for by name and they go straight to the source. So not only do they command a premium margin on their products, but they also don't have to pay for it as much on marketing costs. Though they're all big marketers, they just don't need to spend as heavily into that.
Hey gang, it's Wednesday, October 20th. Andrew and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Newstar. I'm Marcus. Today I'm joined by one of our principal analysts covering retail. It's Andrew Lipsman.
Hey, Marcus.
Hey, chap. Today's fact: chocolate is scientifically proven to make you happy. Of course it is. There are a few compounds that you'll find in your chocolate bar that have been linked to improved mood and even altered brain patterns. Tryptophan, an amino acid that helps the brain produce serotonin, the neurotransmitter related to happiness and satisfaction. Another one called phenylethylamine. Yes, this is one of the many reasons I'm not a doctor, because no one wants to take medical advice from someone struggling to pronounce the science terms. That's yet an adrenaline-boosting compound, often dubbed the love chemical, because it stimulates the feeling of falling in love, and theobromine, a compound proven to reduce stress, reduction, and increase relaxation. This has to be true. I'm at my absolute happiest when I'm eating Nutella sticks. 100%. Today's real topic: how is holiday shopping shaping up? So, Andrew, spending increased in September, apparently, month on month, despite supply constraints and the Delta variant, reflecting both healthy demand and higher prices, writes David Harrison of the Wall Street Journal. Andrew, I know that you are not a fan of the month-over-month comparison, and rightly so. So looking at retail sales, which aren't adjusted for inflation, they grew 14% in September year on year. At this stage, Andrew, do you think that things are looking quite promising? So, are you more of a glass half full or half empty kind of person when it comes to your holiday shopping expectations at this juncture?
I'm definitely in the glass half full, actually more than half full. I think the glass is almost going to be overflowing. As you said,
Brimming.
14% growth year over year in September, right? That's a strong lead in for the holiday season.
Yep. We
just came out with our holiday forecast, and we are forecasting 9.0% growth in total retail sales to 1.147 trillion with a T. That's going to be the second season on record eclipsing the $1 trillion mark. And, there are some other forecasts out there that are similarly in the high single digit range. So, I think it's absolutely fair to say that consumer demand is really strong. It will get expressed through strong retail spending. There will be some caveats along the way. As you mentioned, inflation is going to be part of that number.
Yeah, ICSC's estimates, they have holiday sales, which we're similar to them in terms of what we're talking about holiday sales, right? November and December?
Yes.
Okay. They will increase they have 9% to over 900 billion year on year. You said we're at 9% as well?
We're at 9%. I believe Deloitte was another early forecast. They gave us, I believe, 7 to 9% range.
Okay. Annetta Makowska, chief economist at Jefferies LLC, she was pointing out that September sales numbers could also have been boosted by delayed back-to-school shopping season, as some parents held off on purchases in the summer while waiting for schools to clarify plans. So it got a bit of a tailwind heading into the season. Andrew, Eva Keese of Adweek notes that this year's holiday shopping outlook looks different to last. Contextual ad platform Channel Factory found that last year, 63% of folks said COVID-19 would impact their purchase decisions. This year, a similar share, 64%, said it wouldn't. COVID-19 wouldn't impact their purchase decisions. What other differences are you expecting to see / are seeing when comparing this year's holiday shopping season to last?
Well, some things will have to change from last year. Last year was pre-vaccine, and now we're post-vaccine. Those who want it at this point should have been vaccinated. And that's going to change your calculus for how comfortable you feel getting out into stores. It's also going to change some of those patterns that we saw really ramp up last year, like e-commerce. So just to unpack some of the specifics in terms of channel growth in our holiday forecast. Last year, we saw e-commerce grow an unbelievable 32%, while brick and mortar was up 2.0%.
This was last year. Wow.
That's last year. This year, we're expecting e-commerce to grow 14.4%. So that growth rate, one way to look at it is that it's been cut in half. The way I look at it is, wow, to continue growing, not just growing, but growing well into double digits on top of that 32% growth from last year is really incredible for e-commerce to keep up that momentum. So I think that's a much stronger number than it even appears at face value for e-commerce. But the big number really is brick and mortar. We're expecting to jump from, as I said, 2% last year to 7.9% growth this year.
Wow.
I mean, it's historically strong. And in fact, that overall number of 9% for the season that I mentioned, that's going to be the highest in more than 20 years. It's certainly going to be the highest on record since we at eMarketer Insider Intelligence started measuring such things back in 2008.
And this is, I assume, taking into consideration supply chain issues as well.
Right. That's the amazing thing. Almost anytime I've had a conversation about our forecast or general outlook for the holiday season and that it would be very strong, the first thing I hear is, what about the supply chain issues, right? This has become really pervasive, and there's unbelievable cultural awareness of the fact that supply chain is causing all sorts of headaches for retailers, both online and in store, right? And you visibly see it on shelves in major retailers. I can't think of the last time that I went to so many major retailers and you just see bare sections of store shelves. What's amazing, though, as you mentioned, is that that has not slowed down spending at all. It will affect whether or not people can get what they want, but a dollar that doesn't get spent on one item tends to just move towards another item. So I think that's going to be the bigger determinant of consumer spending, is not that people have a singular mindset about what they buy. If they're going to try and buy a gift for someone else, for example, if they can't get what they want, they'll go to option B or C. So that's what will end up happening. I think that there's not going to be so much money left on the table at the end of the day.
Yeah. We'll talk a bit more about supply chain issues in other news in the second half of the show. You mentioned the vaccination rates. One thing that's encouraging people to go back out to the stores. 67% of Americans felt comfortable shopping in stores as of September of this year. That was from Civic Science. Some other data, ICSC survey showed 85% of people said they would shop in brick and mortar stores this year. Research from InTouch Insight found that the frequency with which consumers visit in person continues to rise. 38% of fall respondents reporting visiting stores 2 to 3 times a week. That's up from 26% this past spring. So from 26 to 38 from fall to spring. The share of folks saying crowd management was an important factor in deciding whether to visit a physical location was markedly down. It was down to 21%. And then YouGov, September data showing 64% of consumers said they're comfortable visiting clothing stores. So people, it seems, Andrew, are comfortable to go back to stores, and it seems like we're reflecting that in our expectations for brick and mortar. That's absolutely right. And I would say what people say and what they do, as we know, is not always the same. They are reflecting more comfort. Typically opposite. But the actual behavioral data that we've seen as well, foot traffic data, shows that brick and mortar foot traffic has come back. So we've seen strong evidence that this has already happened. Yeah. Another difference we expect to see this year is people shopping earlier. And a bunch of data to suggest that's exactly what people plan to do. Pretty much every survey I looked at, multi-channel merchant, they said 30% of folks were starting earlier than last year. Civic Science found that last year, by September, 40% of folks were preparing for the holidays already. This year, it's gone from 40 to 50%. That's preparing. Civic Science found that in September of last year, 80% of folks hadn't started shopping yet. This year, it was 70%. It was down to 70% of folks who hadn't started shopping already this year. JLL found similar numbers, with over 50% of shoppers saying they will start shopping before Thanksgiving this year. That's up from 43 who said the same last year. And finally, YouGov, they found consumers this year were 5 points more likely to say they started or plan to start their shopping before November. And they're also more likely, twice as likely, to say that they will begin their holiday shopping in October when compared to what they said last year. So every survey, Andrew, saying people are going to shop earlier. That's something we also expect. Yeah, and this is one of these interesting narratives with the holiday season that I've talked about for years, where even when promotions start earlier and people say they'll shop earlier, they don't always do that. Last year actually changed everything. Consumers were hyper aware of potential concerns around Shipageddon and not getting their packages in time for Christmas. Mm-hmm. And, so many things were disrupted by the pandemic that actually we saw a really notable shift of demand moving forward, right? So sometimes
you need something dramatic in order for consumers to actually shift their behavior. This year, we've already seen evidence that it will get pulled forward. Consumers are already hyper attuned to this. And then now we have this broad awareness of supply chain issues. They're even more prime than they were last year to start earlier. So we've seen shopping for the holiday season get started in earnest here in October. But I would even say if you look at that bump in September, there's probably a little bit of that activity even happening in September this year.
Yeah. And how much do we expect Amazon's fall Prime Day replacement? Last year, Prime Day was in October. They recently announced they're unveiling the Black Friday worthy deals earlier than ever via Amazon.com/epic deals. How much are we expecting this to move the needle?
I think it will marginally move the needle. So first off, Prime Day is a singular event, and the singular promotional tentpoles really do shape the industry. It's not just Amazon's ability to draw a crowd, but then every other retailer gets into the act and they have their competing promotions and it becomes its own shopping holiday. So the fact that you don't have it this year will take some of the wind out of the sails. There are other promotions, but without the fanfare of it, it gets such extended media coverage when you have Prime Day that really drives behavior. It's going to get diluted. That said, the demand is there from consumers. So I think that you'll see, pretty elevated shopping levels throughout October, just not really concentrated on that single point in time.
Yeah. Where will folks be shopping? JLL's annual holiday survey found the top 6 retailers that consumers plan to shop this holiday are, yes, it's Amazon, 66%, you guessed it. Walmart, 45%, Target, 40%, Macy's, 10%, way behind in 4th, Kohl's and Best Buy, 9% each. Andrew, where are you expecting people to shop this year?
Well, that's a pretty good list. So you just listed, the usual suspects who are going to attract crowds online and in store. When I think about which retailers will really be kind of the winners and losers of the season, I lumped it into 4 categories that I think will kind of determine those who overperform. That first category is what I call the new normal e-commerce beneficiaries, essentially the retailers who got a big pandemic spike for whatever reason, but they're going to be able to maintain that and carry it forward. So the examples I give there, Amazon is obvious. I think that habit just got even more ingrained. Chewy, you had all these people who are new to the pet market. That caused a huge spike at Chewy. That's going to carry forward. Etsy. People came to Etsy for masks, and now they're staying for holiday gifts. My second category is power brands. So that list for me is Apple, Nike, Lululemon, and Peloton. All of them have really exciting initiatives going on. Apple, I'll just call out here because they're ready for a big iPhone cycle. AirPods continue to be just a real power product. So I think those brands will do really well. Click and collect mavens like Best Buy, Walmart, and Target, they just get an added advantage. And especially when you get into the late season and people are worried about getting their deliveries on time, that last week, they just tend to clean up. And then the last one is pandemic rebound stories. So you have some good brands, good retailers who just had a tough year because their categories were down, and now they're coming back as certain behaviors come back. So the obvious example here would be away for luggage. If people travel again, they need their away suitcases. Nordstrom, and I would say maybe more broadly, department stores and apparel retailers all will do well. Nordstrom, tends to be kind of best in class there. And even a brand like Victoria's Secret that has in the past been a real stalwart of the holidays and has struggled a bit in recent years, they're starting to have a bit of a comeback, especially as they retool their brand and recraft their image around inclusivity.
Which one of those categories are you paying the most attention to this holiday season?
I think the power brands one is really interesting. One of the big themes this year is that, spending, as we mentioned, is going to be really strong, but acquisition costs have gone up quite a bit. So it is just more expensive to advertise online. And the stronger your brand and the more that consumers either search for your brand by name or just go straight to the retailer or brand website, the better. So when I think about, Apple, Nike, Lululemon, and Peloton, those are brands that people ask for by name and they go straight to the source. So not only do they command a premium margin on their products, but they also don't have to pay for it as much on marketing costs. Though they're all big marketers, they just don't need to spend as heavily into that.
Finally, any other holiday trends that you're watching, Andrew?
I'm watching all of it. So I think for somebody who, this will be my 17th year following the holiday season.
Wow.
And I would say for many of those years, 14 out of 17, in fact, I would say it was all about noticing the subtle shifts. 2008, in the midst of the financial crisis, that was one where things got very disrupted. And then last year and this year, are two that are, I think, going to be marked by chaos, right? And just changes and channel shifting and all sorts of things that can't fully be planned for. So it's going to be really interesting to see who makes the most of the opportunity. I think really smart marketers, there's never a better opportunity to gain an advantage on the competition, not just for the season, but it's something they'll be able to carry forward into the future.
Mm-hmm. That's all we've got time for the lead story. It's time now for the halftime report. Andrew, hit us with a takeaway or two from the first half.
Okay, my big takeaway is that spending is going to be really strong, but just keep in mind that inflation will be part of that, and it won't all drop to the bottom line. Retailers may very well be squeezed on their margins.
And you just finished up our holiday shopping report, which just came out Monday?
Correct.
Okay. Pro subscribers, you can check that out, eMarketer.com. That's all we've got time for the lead story. It's time now for In Other News. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Newstar. Are you prepared for marketing's next chapter? You won't want to miss Brave New World's 2021, the virtual marketing and analytics event of the year on November 9th and 10th. Join Brave New Worlds to learn how you can adapt to the forces redefining advertising. It's free, and you'll hear from today's top minds in marketing data and analytics, including executives from Facebook, General Motors, Capgemini, Publicis, and more. Go to bravenewworlds.newstar to register today. Folks, we are back. Today in other news, is retail media going to be the next big trend, and supply chain havoc? Story 1. eMarketer projects retail media to be the next big trend in digital advertising, writes Insider Intelligence eMarketer briefing director Jeremy Goldman. He could have replaced eMarketer with regards to that trend with Andrew, because you've been leading this charge for a while, Andrew, in terms of predicting and projecting that retail media will be the next big trend. Why is it the next big thing? Because of the surge in e-commerce spending and the necessity to reach consumers close to the point of purchase, Jeremy writes. He points out that our latest forecast for e-commerce channel advertising, as he says a close proxy for retail media advertising, projects that spending will grow 28% this year to reach $24 billion. Upward revisions are likely, and Amazon accounts for about 3/4 of that retail media pie. Andrew, what do you foresee the topic of conversation being next year in the world of retail media?
Well, I will first say that upward revisions are imminent.
Oh.
I've seen the numbers. And I will say, expect that $24 billion to go up by several billion.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really hot space. It's going to be growing at over 50% this year and north of 30% next year. Why is it the next big thing? Certainly e-commerce growth has been an accelerant, but Amazon was already building a strong business well before that. It just took a while for the rest of the industry to notice what was going on. Being able to place ads, as they mentioned, close to the point of purchase is really valuable, because you can not just drive that purchase, but also measure its effectiveness. I think that ad dollars, especially in digital, tend to follow measurement. So when you can really prove that ROI of a dollar spent, budgets start to move quickly. So that's happened, largely from small and medium-sized businesses, sellers on Amazon's marketplace and some other marketplaces. What you haven't seen is these big flows of brand dollars coming into the space. I think the pandemic really accelerated that. Lots of CPGs now are throwing in with Amazon, but also Walmart's retail media network, Instacart, Kroger, and a handful of others. So that's what's changed. And it's not just about throwing those dollars into search on these platforms. Certainly that's driving the bulk of the behavior today, but it's going to start to move into branding advertising. And that branding advertising is going to move into connected TV. If I could say the focus of 2022, look ahead to next fall when Amazon gets Thursday Night NFL exclusive rights. That's where large brand advertisers like to spend, and they're going to have to do it through Amazon. So all of a sudden, they're going to be able to get TV-like ads powered by Amazon purchase data, and they're going to be able to see the impact and effectiveness of those ads. TV has always been talked about as kind of the least measurable of major media, certainly when compared against digital. All of a sudden, you're going to have that high value advertising format linked with digital targeting and measurement.
Yeah. Story 2, supply chain havoc. is getting worse and just in time for holiday shopping, writes Rebecca Highwile of Recode. Supply crunch for petrochemicals like plastics and paints. Power cuts in China have closed factories. An ongoing shortage of shipping containers and truck drivers and bottlenecked ports. All this equals shipping delays and raised prices. We briefly touched on in the lead story. Andrew, how will shipping delays change holiday shopping this year?
Yeah, well, this is a big part of the chaos this season. So, it's all parts of the supply chain, from getting raw materials into products, getting products, over here domestically from foreign manufacturers. You've got issues with the last mile and shipping and all these factors. So it's going to upend a lot of things that require a lot of planning. Large retailers have figured out an end around because they've just hired their own shipping containers to go to China and other places where their manufacturing is to bring goods over. But yeah, it just creates a lot of uncertainty about getting inventory here on time. And so that's why you see shoppers trying to get ahead of the curve and get what they can now, because they can't guarantee that whatever goes out of stock will come back in stock.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be a big story is just how many goods end up being out of stock, and particularly high demand goods.
Yeah, consumers' top concerns this holiday were out-of-stock items, 50%, shipping delays, 46%, high prices, 46%, higher shipping costs this year than last, 41%. Recent research from geofencing platform Blue Dot showed 8 out of 10 folks were concerned with supply chain issues, 8 out of 10 expected item shortages to impact their holiday shopping. Despite their supply chain concerns, most folks, 57%, will start shopping at the same time or later, according to a Convey survey by Project 44. Andrew, 68% of folks wanted brands to clearly identify products that were out of stock on the product page. 64% wanted to be informed if an order will arrive later than promised. 63% want brands to identify out-of-stock items on the search results page. And 61% want items removed that are no longer available. Digital Commerce 360 BizRate Insights was saying that. I like that idea, the idea that you can toggle available or all items. Similar to fantasy football, when you're adding a player, you can see all of the players or the ones that are available. And I did like that concept.
There's an underappreciated feature in Google Shopping ads, actually, where retailers can indicate whether that good is in stock when you search. I think that's going to become really powerful for people this year, because that's one of the first things you want to know when something comes up. Oh, can I actually get it? Okay. And that's probably going to steer a lot of searches in the direction of retailers who are smart enough to implement that feature.
Yeah. Finally, Rebecca Highwile of Recode notes that Best Buy just announced a $200 a year program that promises consumers lower prices and exclusive access to hard-to-find devices. The new membership also includes 24/7 tech support and free shipping, but the idea of guaranteed product availability might be particularly appealing to shoppers worried about their orders and worried that they won't arrive on time for the holidays. Any thoughts on this new loyalty program from Best Buy?
I love membership programs when they work well. I mean, Amazon Prime, obviously, Costco membership, and now you have Walmart Plus, which seems to be picking up some traction. Not every retailer can do it or do it well, but Best Buy is in position to do that, especially because consumer electronics as a category is having a bit of a moment. I really love the idea that they're building this around the benefit of exclusive access. When you think about gaming consoles and some of these other high demand products that people can't get their hands on, that's a great way to draw consumers in. And as long as you can continue to provide benefits that keep them loyal, I think it's a huge win. So I think this is something I wasn't expecting from Best Buy, but as soon as I heard it, I thought it was a great idea, and I think they'll have success, and we'll probably give them even an additional boost going into the holiday season.
Why has Airbnb not got a membership program? I believe weren't they working on one? Figure that out. I would have so many points at this point. It would be crazy. That's what we've got time for this episode. Thank you, Andrew, for hanging out.
Thanks, Marcus.
And thanks to Victoria. She edits the show. Thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Newstar. Please reset the game clock. I've always wanted to say that. Please reset the game clock to 5 minutes and 53 seconds. Repeat, first down. Andrew, favorite chocolate, go.
You know, I've never been a big chocolate guy. For me, everything you're describing is what ice cream does for me. You can have flecks of chocolate.
There we go. There we are.